Hi, I'm Katie Crane, and this is the Pilates Lounge. Hi everyone, my name's Katie Crane. I'm the Pilates professional. Welcome to another episode of the Pilates Lounge Podcast. Now this week we are hitting on a topic that has not been discussed, not once on the Pilates Lounge Podcast. So I'm a little bit thrilled to be discussing this topic today with somebody who no doubt many of you are going to know because our guest has quite a strong presence out in the Pilates professional world. And I kind of felt like our guest was probably one of the best speakers on this topic because it's something that I know that she's passionate about because I follow her. And she's done quite a bit of work on herself to have a very deep understanding around the topic specifically of business. Believe it or not, people, whether you're a Pilates instructor who is teaching for somebody else in a studio, whether you're teaching Pilates in the park, or whether you have yourself a studio online or in person, you are in business. And the importance of understanding business, I believe, is really what makes a great Pilates instructor. And I know that it's not necessarily a topic that comes naturally to a lot of us, but once you can harness the back end of what it is that we do, the business side of what it is we do, then I believe that you can really create your own magic. Lesley Logan, NCPT, also a habits, mindset, and breathwork coach, is the founder of onlinepilatesclasses.com, the largest catalogue of free Pilates tutorials, and the only on-demand platform that helps Pilates lovers of all levels have accountability and community. Lesley Logan has been teaching since 2008 and was trained by one of Joseph Pilates' clients, making her a second-generation instructor. She has trained thousands of people around the world and hundreds of teachers and loves helping women ditch perfection, take messy action, and prioritize themselves first so that they can do life better. With a comprehensive certificate from National Pilates Certificate Program, and with teaching experience since 2008, Lesley is widely regarded by the Pilates community and corporate executives alike. Welcome to the show, Miss Lesley Logan.
Oh my God, that was a wonderful intro. Thank you so much. I'm so passionate about this, you guys, because in this industry, there isn't a job I haven't done. There isn't a thing I haven't tried except for a franchise. Although I've taught in many of them, I haven't owned one. And I am passionate because I do believe that too often the best teachers are not teaching enough clients, and it's not because of their prices, and it's not because like there's something. It's because there's just these different things that they don't know because they weren't trained in their teaching training programs.
Totally. And before, to get started, I was thinking about this before we got online together, and I would love to know from you, at what stage in your own teaching practice did you realize that you are in business and that in fact you are a brand?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, so I think I think this might shock some people. Before I became a Pilates instructor, I was in retail. I loved it. I thought I would be in jewelry, accessories, purses for the rest of it. I thought I'd be a buyer. I just thought fashion was gonna be the way that I went. But you guys, it was 2008, and I'm sure it was a recession in the US. I'm sure it was everywhere else. It was that great recession, 2008. And I was suggested to be a Pilates instructor because I loved it, and I would go as much as I possibly could afford it. And so I was like, oh, I'll just do this on my free time. I'll teach some mat classes on my free time. I'm sure a lot of people are like, I'll just do this little side hustle, right? And so what happened though is the people around me who were giving me business advice, who were Pilates instructors, because of my retail experience in managing and understanding margins and buying and just the business of retail, when they were giving me advice, I'm like, that is crap. I can't run a business like that. So I was running a business from the time I wasn't even an apprentice. But the brand of it all, I that didn't come till way later because I was a take messy action person. Let me get a website up, whatever. These are my initials and I like the color purple. Boom. Like that's kind of the thing. And so it wasn't really until probably, I would say in 2013, even though I'd written my book and everything by then, that I realized that like as a person, I'm a brand. And I think that took some time to understand because I think we think a logo and color, brand colors are the brand. And really your brand is an energy and it's a feeling and it's something you give people. And so you can't manufacture that before you get started. You kind of got to get started. And then, I have a friend, Nadine Hanafi, who calls it procrasti-branding. Like, don't procrasti-brand. Like, don't noodle around on your logo and your colors all the time. Like, go out and be yourself because yourself is what's going to attract people. And we can go into more details of how to attract people. But like, there is something about you that is the brand that people are going to come after. And that is what you can build things off of. But you are in business the moment you start taking clients, everyone. So treat it like one from day one because it's really, really hard to change people's mindset around that when you've had them a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And it's so true, isn't it? Like, we sit on, what about the colors of my logo? I don't know if I'm really happy with that. I don't know if I really care for the look, but nobody's actually really looking at that. People are listening to you. They're looking at you. They're, checking out what kind of energy you have and seeing if, you're their fit.
So when I started teaching Pilates and I needed a website, we just called it L Logan Pilates. Like, I don't know why I didn't call it my first name, whatever. Just kind of always went with my last name for a lot of things. And then a lot of people call me by my initials. So I was like, okay, we'll just do L Logan. It's kind of a combination. So the logo is just 2 L's, right? So when we created Profitable Pilates, it was 2 P's and we just literally like mimicked it. And then when OPC came around, we didn't even call it OPC in the beginning. So we just took those 2 L's and made them blue. You guys, this is in 2018. Like, we really did not spend any money on investing in like a brand guide and all these fancy things that you see that I have now. We did not invest in that until 2020. And that was because like, that's when we knew, okay, we're making Profitable Pilates its own significant setup brand because it's going to have other coaches that are there. It's not just about me. Where OPC is going to be pulled off of my personal site because it's its own on-demand action. It's its own thing that can grow to its own thing. So that's kind of where that came from. But everything was in existence. The youngest was 2 years old as a business, not my child, which is, I guess my businesses are my children. And then obviously my existing one. And I'm really glad we waited because I would have branded them so differently had I did it from the beginning and it would have attracted a whole different person.
That's great insight, hey? But I guess like it's that whole, putting something out imperfect is okay. And then figure out what is your brand? Who are you? Who are your ideal clients? Who do you want to be in your community? And then really start to tap into, okay, what does that look like?
Oh yeah, but Katie, you just like hit like 3 different things that scare the heck out of Pilates instructors. They want to be perfect. They want to help everybody. They can help everybody, right? They can help them all. And to put anything out there before it's done, that would be like, what are the Pilates police going to say? So here's the deal though, you guys, I know that you're a perfectionist because you're in the Pilates industry. Like, you don't have to tell me. I already know. This is like where every type A person comes to like get reformed. So no pun intended, but it works really well. But the truth is like, you will be surprised if you take messy action in your business and you put things out there before they're ready, you get better feedback. I will tell you, I'll actually give a personal example. So at Profitable Pilates, we actually coach people. It's called agency. And the reason it's called that is because every single person has agency. You actually have the agency in you to create whatever you want. And so I always name things after like how I want you to feel. So, or they're just really specific, but don't be cute and clever. It doesn't work, guys. It's not searchable. So I wanted that. But when we started it, well, no one really knows this, but like in 2016, I launched a version of this coaching company. And guess what? I had 0 people sign up. I launched it. We spent all this money on a website. Like I was making it all cool behind the scenes. I told no one about it. And until it was ready. And guess what? Because I didn't put it out there imperfectly and I didn't get feedback over time, not only did it fail, like after 6 months, still no one signed up. We like had to go back to the drawing board. And what is so funny is I was only going to charge $50 a month for all this business coaching that you could get, and no one bought it. So when I went back to the drawing board, I was like, okay, here's all these blogs, here's all this stuff, and I'm going to sell this one webinar for $50. So the thing I was going to charge $50 a month for, we were going to get all this stuff. I just sold one webinar for $50. And guess what? People bought that webinar. So then I tried another one. And so by then testing out different parts of things, I got feedback on what actually people wanted to learn about. And I got to have contact with clients and I got to hear their testimonials and their success stories. And so then I could go to those people and go, hey, you're buying 2 webinars a month. That is $100. What if for $85 you got all of this stuff? Would you like that? And I could survey them. I could put it together. And so wouldn't you know it, in 2018, we launched the thing again with a new name, all the stuff we'd promised them before for more money, and people bought it. But we had to actually do the different parts. We had to take the messy action. So I actually love to share that story because it was so embarrassing at the time. You guys, I was so embarrassed, and I laughed because, like, who was I embarrassed? No one even knew it existed. What's there to be embarrassed about? But I was so embarrassed at the failure, and now, like, every time we do anything, we always go back to, like, okay, how do we not do that again?
Oh, so hang on. So you're telling me that you are not an overnight success?
No. I know, but people like to think, like, people want it. But here's the thing. We all do this, right? We look at celebrities and we go, oh my God, they just came out of nowhere and now they're in everything. So in the States, I'm obsessed with Alona Mayer, right? She is in the rugby. She, like, the US won the bronze. Like, obviously you guys have had rugby forever and I'm just becoming known to this thing, right? And I'm obsessed with her. So I watched her have 65,000 followers when I followed her before the Olympics began. She has over 3 million now, right? I'm watching her become what we would call an overnight success, but she's not. She has been playing rugby forever. Before anyone in the US paid attention to her. She's been playing forever, and she's been putting herself out there imperfectly all the time on socials. And now she's blowing up because of just doing the steps, doing the reps. And what every Pilates instructor needs to learn from that, and then even from my example, is like, consistency always wins. It always wins. We always say Pilates is about being consistent. You do it consistently, you get all these benefits, right? If you consistently show up, put yourself out there, and then learn from the experiment of doing it. Oh, I posted X, Y, and Z. No one liked it. You're not a failure. Try something else. Okay? You put that out there. Oh, that got a ton of teachers to comment. Oh, I don't want to teach teachers. I want to teach the people down the street. Okay. Put something else out there. Oh, the mom down the street finally commented. Great. Do it again. So it's all an experiment. But what we tend to think about is that it has to work the first time or it doesn't. I'm a failure. And you guys, it's just not how businesses work. They don't work like that. Not just in Pilates, like anywhere. Like, all businesses have failures, and the important thing is you learn from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something I've always had a mentor, and one of my mentors recently said, the business of business is boring. Like, you got to get over that. To be consistent is boring, rather than stop looking at the next shiny, bright thing, because as Pilates instructors, yes, we are perfectionists, but we're also creative. And sometimes I feel like our creative side makes us be like, oh, but what about that over there? And then we let go of what could actually be working, just as it starts to work, because we take on the shiny, bright thing.
Oh my gosh, Katie, my business coach said, this is years ago, she's like, your business is not here to entertain you. Go watch a movie. Go have a hobby. Like, go pay. I live in Vegas. I can get entertained anytime I want, right? Like, but like, your business is not here to entertain you. In fact, like, having something cyclical is important. Like, it's so good. People like to say, oh my God, you're so busy. You're so busy. I have a set schedule that, yes, is very full when I'm working. But I don't actually feel very busy because I know it's very cyclical. Oh, Q4, we do a lot of travel. We have a retreat. We have a tour. Q1, I don't start the year until this date. Like, it's very cyclical. So it is boring in a lot of ways, but it's also really nice because I know, okay, we can invest more on the business during this quarter because that's when X, Y, and Z happens. Oh, during this quarter, we don't hire, we don't do any of these new things. Like, it's so great when you actually have been doing your business enough. And I would say for studio owners and solo teachers, like, you need 2 full years without a pandemic to understand what the seasons of your business are. And you're going to have some seasons that are just out of this world amazing and some seasons that are really slow. And you got to take the out of this world amazing ones and put that money in the bank for the slow seasons. Whenever I coach teachers and I hear them go, oh my God, it's the summer, so it's slow. If you're freaking out because it's your first couple of years, okay, I get you. Like, let's freak out. But if you're in year 8, 10, and you're freaking out, you either like to stress a lot, and it's a really fun thing to entertain yourself off of stress, or you're not actually taking the rewards you had in the busy months and putting it away so that you can actually just enjoy those quiet months. I love the slow seasons of my business. I do more self-care. I go on vacation. I do not stress about money. Now, that can seem like a luxury. I would not call it that. I wouldn't even call it luck. It's called preparation over time, just truly dialing in, because every single business, every single Pilates instructor, you can have a very successful business. There are 8 billion plus people on this planet. There are so many people. There's enough people to go around, and you are the only person who can teach the way that you teach it. There's always going to be a competitor, I put that in air quotes, that you can differentiate yourself off of. Katie and I are talking to each other right now. There are probably a lot of things we do very similarly and some things we do very differently. And it doesn't make her great and me bad, or her right and I'm wrong. All it is like, the reason I teach the way I teach and how I teach it is for this type of person. And this type of person is the person who wants what I have. And there's someone else who go, ew, that's terrible. And I can go, oh, you want Katie, right? Like, that's what you want. So really, when you take some time to really understand, how do you like to how do you like to present the way that you teach Pilates? Because some people will actually, like, for example, I'll do one of the person I'm coaching right now. I've been coaching her for 7 years, where she's doing amazing stuff. Down the street, a person she used to teach is open a studio. She just finished her training 2 months ago. She's opened a studio with 8 of everything. And she's the only teacher there. And she's doing, the first week is free. All these different things. She's basing her business off of another model that she sees as working. So here's the problem with that. She is one person doing all those things. And it might be successful, but it's not, there's no margins for teachers. There's no margins for any of this. But she's so different from what my client that I'm coaching is doing. It doesn't even matter. They're so different. The type of person who wants to be one of 8 versus the person who wants to be one of 3 is very different. And so my person, what I did not hear in her talking to me is at all worry about her business being affected by this, because it won't. Will people try it out? Maybe. But if they really love what she's doing, they're going to stick with her. And so we really have to get used to going, every single one of us has the opportunity to be successful, and how you want to do it is better than how it looks like it could be successful. I think we have to stop copying what looks like a successful model and instead understand, like, what are the goals in my life? Like, how do I want to live my life? Do I want to work 7 days a week? Do I want to work 6 days a week? What is the end result I want for my business? Do I want to sell it? Do I want it to retire with me? Do I want to train a bunch of teachers who take it over? Like, what do you want? And then let's create a business that reflects where you want to grow, and based on your values, your morals, your authenticity. And then there's all these different ways of people doing Pilates, and people can pick and choose the right one that's best for them. And that's cool, because then you can show up every day doing what you love and not what you think is going to make you money.
I think that this is such a powerful and important message for any Pilates professional out there, regardless of whether or not you are a studio owner or, doing your own jam in the park, because I feel like there is that, well, in Australia, there's this tall poppy syndrome, that imposter syndrome, whatever you want to call it. What about the person next door? I mean, we're the same, like, we literally had a physiotherapist, you guys call them a physical therapist, open up a Pilates-based clinic literally 3 doors down from us, and it could have been like, oh my gosh, let's put up all of our barriers, like, it's war. But instead, we went down there and we're like, hey, welcome to the community. This is awesome. How can we refer to each other? What you do is what, is amazing. You're going to see people at this acute phase of their injury, whatever, we can see them as well, but, that's okay. That's your specialty. Let's become community. Let's figure out how can we make it work together. I feel like rather than put up barriers and start a war with that next door neighbor, go in and get to know them, because chances are they are feeling super vulnerable and they actually don't want to step on your toes. The most that they want is to be a part of a community. So if you could be the bigger person and be that community, be that leader, then I think people would be surprised at what could come from that.
Oh, 100%. And also, like, if they are someone who's like, oh, I'm going to stomp on that person over there, like, you'll find out right away. And then you'll know, okay, that person isn't here. Like, but truthfully, most people actually be like, oh my God, that's so cool. What do you specialize in? That's amazing. Because here's the thing. And maybe it's because when I first started teaching Pilates, I was a renter of like one of 30 renters. So this studio is huge. And there was so many of us who all taught Pilates. We're all a little different, had a little different experience. We all set our own different rates. And most people were not contacting the main studio and going, I only want to pay this. They were actually calling and saying, I'm looking for Pilates. Here's the days I want to do it. Here's what's going on with me. And then that studio owner would go, oh, okay, these two teachers are going to be the person who's best for you. You can look at their schedules and you can look at their rates on the site, and we can make a contact there. So a lot of people are based off of goals and then schedule, right? So I got to grow up as a Pilates instructor in a space where it was like, I was one of many who could do this similar things. Could I work with someone with an injury? Yes. Is it my favorite thing? Not really, but like I could, right? But instead we let the clients kind of choose. And then I did my own marketing. And here's the thing, the whole imposter syndrome, you got to stop with that. You got to stop saying that about yourself. It's not a nice thing to say. And all it is a sign that you're not an egotistical asshole. Okay, you're not. What you are is someone who really cares so much about what you do, you're worried you'll make a mistake. And that's fine, because that's going to make you a lifelong learner that's going to always be trying to figure out how to best serve your people. But you hiding behind your imposter syndrome means no one's going to find you. And so who they're going to find you is the person who can't stop talking about what they do. They might not even be the greatest person for this person, but they're the ones who are talking about it. So the person can find them. So you have to be a little bit obsessed with how amazing you are so that people can enjoy that energy. People are attracted to someone who thinks they're really good at what they're doing. I'm not saying be a narcissist. I'm saying be proud of what you've done. Be proud. I don't care if you're listening to like, I've only been teaching for 6 months. This industry is really good at making sure people feel like they're low on the totem pole. I've been teaching for 16 years, and there are some days when I feel like I haven't been teaching enough. Right? Because the people that I tour with, the people that I teach along conferences with, have been teaching for 40 years. So I could also easily put myself on that ladder. That ladder is ridiculous and is meant to distract you from showing up and teaching people you want to teach. Yes, you might be a new teacher, but that doesn't mean that you are not able to help people in an amazing way, because your life experiences that brought you to be a teacher make you the best person to teach the people you're trying to teach. I used to think, oh my God, I'm not a dancer. Because when I got into the Pilates world, everyone was a dancer. I'm not a dancer. People aren't going to like me. I was the busiest teacher in my studio, not because of how many years experience I had and not because I was a dancer, but because I was a runner and I used to have a career and I understood them. So please, please, please be a tall poppy. People will pick them because they're going to see you. And recognize the imposter syndrome feeling when you have it. It's probably a sign you're going outside of your comfort zone. And then get outside your comfort zone and talk about who you are and how you help people. But if you see competition in air quotes near you, get to know what they're doing, because here's what was so great. I believe in accessibility and inclusivity. And I also believe that I am not the best teacher for everyone. And so when someone came to me who had an acute condition or a special goal that they wanted to hit, I knew people I could refer them to, so that this person wasn't left to their own devices to go back to the internet and go, oh, you have a neurological condition. I know these two people. They're the best in town. What days and times do you want to take sessions? Let me see when they're available. Connect them. Boom. Guess who loves me? That teacher and that client. That client loves me, right? So if you know who the people are around you and what they specialize in, oh, you're a class-based studio, they're a private-based studio, and people need one-to-ones, you can go, you know who you need to go? You got to go over here because they're the best at that before you can come to these classes. Oh, you want classes? We only do privates here, and here's why. But if you still want classes, you can go here. It's okay to differentiate and promote your unique differences. And then if someone still wants something else, send them there, because they're going to refer you back and we're all going to win.
Just a quick little interruption to say a big thank you to listening to the Pilates Lounge podcast. This podcast is all about sharing our love of movement and Pilates with as many people as possible. So if you're enjoying the show, please take a moment to review us so that we can get the word out there. Also, if you haven't joined us on the Pilates Muse newsletter, it's a bi-weekly newsletter that shares a whole load of information with you. And we also have virtual online education program. So if you're looking to get inspired and grow even more as a Pilates professional, check us out, www.thepilatesprofessional.com.au. Back to the show. Yeah, I totally agree. I hear this all the time, and I'm sure you do as well, but I want to teach everybody, but I want to serve everybody, but I don't want to say no to anybody. But the thing is, like you say, when you can be really specific on, who is your ideal client or your avatar or however you want to, specify that, when you can be really clear on that, there are so many of that person looking for you, but unless you are clear on it, they don't know that you even exist. So, and I know that this is super scary for people. So how do we figure out who our ideal client is, and how do we learn to speak to that person?
Yes. Okay. And don't let me forget how to answer that question, but I do want to say this one thing before that. Even Disney does not create a movie for everyone. Even Disney, they will create a movie. And then if you are paying attention to how they market it, they have different marketing videos based on who they're putting in front of. So Tangled, which is a story about Rapunzel, it's a princess story. They didn't want to create a princess story because then the boys wouldn't come. So they called it Tangled, okay? I think that's what they called it. Don't quote me, I have no children. But at any rate, the way they marketed it to girls, boys, parents, children is very different. They have a bigger budget than you, okay? So this is even they know that they cannot market to everybody because the same video will not work. So how do you figure out who you're right for? Just because you are creating I like to call it like an ideal real person client avatar, like a real human avatar, just because it doesn't mean you turn people away. So I was just coaching a client today who's having a really hard time with this. And I said, my marketing when I was a teacher in LA was for the busy woman who was doing everything for everybody and needed some time for herself. Okay. All of my stuff was for women. 50% of my client was men, and most of those men were NFL players or other athletes or retired athletes. So they did not go to my website. I was obviously out and about at a gym. I was working out and I was talking to someone. I told them what I did, and that's how I got one who referred me a bunch of others. So just because I'm asking you, and Katie and I are talking about why you cannot talk to everyone and you cannot market to everyone, doesn't mean you have to say no to someone you're intrigued at teaching and can teach, right? Now, if that person had a neurological condition, I'm not going to go, yeah, I could teach you. I'm not trained in that. I haven't done that. And so that's where I would say no. But if you're intrigued by someone and you can't help them, I'm not saying you turn them away. But what we're talking about here about niching down and having this real is so that you can actually be heard amongst the crowd. So there are plenty of businesses who already advertise Pilates. I love those companies, those franchises that just market Pilates all the time. They're doing a really good job for the rest of us. They're actually educating people on what Pilates is or what they think Pilates is, and you can differentiate yourself from that. What they're not doing well is actually talking to your client. So the reason you need to niche down is because the way a 19-year-old gets information versus a 42-year-old woman with children versus a 55-year-old empty nester versus a 78-year-old retiree who's got two homes, the way they get information is very different. They use a different language. They have different goals. Their reason for doing Pilates with you is different. Who pays for that session is different. Okay. So those of you who are like, I want to teach children, you got to market to the parents because that's who's paying the bills. Okay. Unless you got a child star, like that's who's paying the bills. So the way you would market to, I want to help all women over 40. Great. Do these women have children in the home or out of the home? Very different lives, very different abilities, very different times of day they can work out, very different stresses and needs. So the more you can think about your client, and I would challenge you to get into a 10-year age gap. That's the only, I do demographics a little different. My way of doing an ideal client is more psychographics, but the demographics are going to be the 10 years because in that 10 years, do they go on Instagram at all? Or are they using Google? Like how are they getting information is going to change. So I would strongly encourage if you're going to do any demographics, you're going to stick with the 10 years, but psychographics are really important. And this is where you can have a lot of fun. And this is where you can diversify a bit more. So what are their worries? What are their concerns? What are their goals? What are their needs? What books do they read? Where do they get their information? Who do they trust? All these questions, you're going to rewind me. I know I talk fast. You can slow podcast down. There's a speed number for that. But write these, these are important information. Where do they hang out? What are their favorite places to eat? So Brad likes to share the story. Brad's my husband. He likes to share the story because when I got my breathwork certification, I was interviewing a bunch of different programs. And one of the programs I really like was also the most expensive program. I was like, it's more than I want. It's not more than I want to spend, but like there's the other ones that are a little bit less. So I get on the sales call with the person and she's like, hey, where are we chatting from today? And I said, oh, I just moved from Los Angeles to Las Vegas a few months ago. And she's like, oh my gosh. Do you miss the Erewhon smoothies? So you might not know what Erewhon smoothies are, but someone from LA does. Okay. And someone from LA, so she did right there, maybe she didn't even know it, is understand if I can afford this breathwork course or not. Because an Erewhon smoothie, you guys, is $30 or more. Okay. So by her going, do you miss the Erewhon smoothies? Yes, $30 or more. By her saying that, if I say, oh, I never had one, I never shopped at the most expensive grocery store. So I might not be someone who's invested in this program with her, right? But instead I was like, oh my God, yes, I do. And yes, you guys, when I wanted to feel luxurious, I went and got one of those smoothies and they were everything. They tasted like gold, the gold dragon's mane that they said was in there with all the stuff. Like it felt so great. But I felt so seen in that moment because she said a specific thing that was very connected to a place that I lived. So when you say, oh, I love getting lattes before my workout, that's great. Your ideal client avatar might like a latte. But if you say specifically, I cannot go on with my day without getting the golden milk latte from the Sunflower Shop, there are people who are going, oh my God, that's my favorite coffee place. So when you can connect like that, people will literally do trust transference based on where you get your coffee, based on your favorite restaurants, based on where you like to read a book or what park you like to run in. So these knowables, these things that you do every day that are like what make you you, also will attract your ideal client to you because you guys are not that much different. Now, maybe they are more athletic than you, or maybe they have children you don't. That's a different story. But like there are things that they like that they go and get that are near your studio or near where you live that's going to help them identify, oh, this teacher is close to me. Oh, this teacher likes what I like. These things are important. And when you know that stuff and you actually share that, instead of saying, I got a latte, but you just didn't share the specific latte, like maybe you're a pumpkin spice girl. I don't know. That's not me. But there are people who are going to be like, oh my God, my teacher loves pumpkin spice. And they're going to bring you a pumpkin spice latte. That kind of stuff is what makes you seen, trusted, differentiates you. And it allows people to go, oh, this person gets me. So you're going to do some homework and you're going to figure out like, where do they eat? Where do they shop? Where do they shop discount racks or do they shop like, high-end retail discount sales that are there? Or do they shop at luxury goods? Like, where do they get their stuff? And the more you can what kind of cars do they drive? Do they care about their car? Or do they don't care about their car? I know this sounds silly, but like the more you can understand that, the more you can relate to them and the more it's going to help you determine where do you spend your marketing time. Because if they love locally owned shops and they love a farmer's market and they love community events, then you need to be at those places. You need to have your flyers at the local coffee shop. You need to talk to the local coffee shop about doing Pilates and lattes. Like we already like everyone's probably giving you the napkin already that says, I thought you said pie and lattes. Do that. Go to a pie shop. Have some fun with it and be where the people are because you can do all the social media in the world that you want and you could be really, really great at it. And it can get you 0 clients because the truth is most Pilates teachers follow Pilates teachers. Very few Pilates clients follow Pilates teachers that aren't their own. So actually, the more that your website is got great SEO and the more you physically are advertising in places that your people are already going or are on the lips of people that they trust, their doctors, their chiros, their physios, their makeup artists, whoever that is, that's how you're going to get your clients. And you'll get them faster than you would from your social media doing a reel of you doing the 100. And I say all that because I do those, but my client is a different person, right, than you're probably trying to get. So what I would say is like, do the homework, understand what they're, and then go there. And you're going to tell me you're shy. I don't want to be a tall tulip. If you believe in you do not have time to be shy and you're actually being really freaking selfish, keeping yourself to yourself because you solve people's problems. And if the problems you solve take people out of pain, Daniel Pink said you have a moral obligation to sell that to someone. So if you take people out of pain, if you solve their problem, you have to tell them what you do. You have to give them the opportunity to decide if it's you or not. And then you get to do what you love for a living and they get to be pain-free. It's a win for everybody. So go out there. It's not about being an extrovert or an introvert. It's about how much do you believe that what you do solves people's problems, and then put it out there in a way that they can digest it. But please, 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 I know you can teach everyone. That's not that's not going to get you there. What's going to get you to really helping people and being a successful business person is dialing in on like, okay, if we were to carbon copy, you were to teach this type of person all the time, what would excite you? What would keep you interested? What would make you have fun? That is really, really going to help you grow your business faster than I'm here for everyone. I'll teach anybody.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I feel like it's definitely a trap that, maybe new studio owners or new instructors get stuck in, that whole fear of, but I'm trying to build, so I'm just going to reach out to everyone. Definitely a really powerful thing that shifted my studio. I've got a studio with about 10 instructors, and we do have different, we have different services and different price points. Like reformer classes are much cheaper than one-on-one clinical, but we understand exactly the reformer clients. They are like the first home buyers, the new mums, the uni students, they're just building their career. Whereas our one-on-one clinical, they are menopausal women, CEOs, directors of the business, double homeowners, their kids have gone to university. So we speak to them very, very differently. And something that made a big difference on understanding how to speak to them is we interviewed our clients who were really solid. We interviewed them. What do you love about us? Why are you here? What are your greatest fears? What do you want more of? It's things like this. And then that's how then we understand how to market to the next lot of people that are going to come in, is understanding the people who already love you.
Well, and what I love about that is that you're going to get their words. And when you use their words, that's going to attract them. I love all the reels about like the Gen Z talk with skibbity. And I don't know if that's the same words that are used in Australia, but like there's just these like Riz, there's all these different words. If someone said any of that stuff to me, it would sound like gibberish. And I would know that they're not trying to teach me, right? Like that is why on OPC, we use a lot of words from the 80s and 90s, and why our classes are like, throwback songs, the 80s and 90s, because our ideal client loves that nostalgia. Like we say the OPC and people go, yeah, me because of the OPP song. Like that's the type of person, right? Like that's why we know our 10-year age group, right? Super fun. So asking your people, surveying them all the time, why do you like us? What would you say to someone who is thinking about doing this? Like that kind of stuff is going to get you great testimonials, but also great words to use on like, how do you market your classes? What are they for? If you are brand new and you don't have enough clients to ask, or they don't give you anything, because some people are just kind of duds. They just like you and that they go, I just like you, then you need to go back to you. Who were you before Pilates? Who were you? Like what was going on in your life? What were the problems that you had? What were you seeking out? What were you searching for? What did you think Pilates was going to be like? What were your objections to it? What were your worries? What were your concerns? What were you excited about? Like use you as your own person. And I can tell you right now, I tried, when we started OPC, we tried out a couple different ideal client avatars to like test it out on. And when it comes down to it, is every single thing I create is based on me before it happened. And me before it happened was someone who was super perfectionist, overachiever, who didn't feel like she belonged, and really was just like trying to check all the boxes to feel good, but wasn't feeling good. And so Pilates is what helped me feel like I was in the present moment. It helped me feel what it's like would be in my own body. And it actually helped me ditch perfection because it focused on me learning how to be curious. And so whenever I go back to like, who is this for? I literally think back to the 22-year-old me. And I think about what she was going through. And yes, obviously a ton of stuff has changed in the last 19 years. How information is put out in the world has changed. But the problem that I was trying to solve, that still exists today. There are still people who do not feel like they belong. There are still women who are perfectionists and overachievers who are trying to do everything for everyone but themselves. That person's still there, so I can still talk to her. So I just tap into that. And I would highly recommend do some meditating, go back through your journals, look at your photos. Who were you? What was going on? And then what did Pilates give you? And if you are new, that is one of the best things you can do because you know how to talk to that person. You know how to talk to you. That wasn't too long ago. So I think that that's really helpful. And it really does. People think, I'm not good at marketing. I'm not good at sales. That's no one who's good at marketing and sales is actually marketing or selling. They're not. They're actually giving honest answers to the problems that they know they can solve. And that's what you're trying to do. But you got to know who you're talking to.
So this is all great information. There's no doubt about it, but there's a problem here. I feel like as a new studio owner, and it's like going back to my experience, I've had a studio for, I don't know, I think this is our 18th year in business. The first 5 years, I was working 7 days a week. I don't think I even paid myself a wage for the first 4 or 5 years. I don't quite remember, but, there was a lot of work. I never took a day off. And I literally got to the point where I burnt out before I even started looking for help. If I could speak to my former self today, I would definitely have said, get help. But I know that it's such a difficult decision to make, and it's a scary decision to make when you're a new instructor or when you're trying to build a business. But at what stage do I get help? And isn't that going to take away all of my income?
Oh, yeah, I know. All the income's all going to go. Okay, so for a couple things. If you are basing your rates off of the going rate in your area, you will probably not have the margins to do the things you want to do. So we have to stop looking at what everyone else is charging when we make our rates. You can use it as market research, but you have to actually go into your business on day one thinking, okay, if this is a successful business, what does it pay for? What does it have? Because we need to build in those expenses today. Something that we work with people on is like, oh, I want to open a studio next year. Okay, how much is it going to cost to open that studio? Then we got to put that in your gross income goal so we can base your rates off of that. So at Profit Applies, we actually have a whole tool that helps you figure out what your rates are. So I'm not going to go into that, but I'm going to go into your question, like, how do I hire and how is it going to cost me all this money? I hired an assistant. 2015, I was still working for a high-end fitness corporation, and I had my own private business, and I was starting something else, and I didn't have enough time to do all of the things. And someone's like, you need an assistant. And I'm like, I can't afford it. I said all the things everyone else says. I can't afford it. I could barely afford what I have. And here's what I also came up with. I couldn't afford not to either, because I wasn't going to grow anymore at the rate I was going. And then the only thing that was going to happen was I was going to burn out. So what I actually decided to do was take on a client, and I called that my Lindsay client because Lindsay was my first assistant, and it was my Lindsay client. And that Lindsay client was not allowed to miss a single session because that client was paying Lindsay's payroll. And Lindsay cost me, for 5 hours of Lindsay's time, it cost me 1 hour of teaching. And I'm going to get to how this formula works in a second. So if I taught 1 hour, I got 4 hours of my life back because Lindsay could take 5 hours of work off my plate, but I was working one of those hours to pay for her payroll, right? So after a few weeks of that, and I realized how much was getting done while I was working, I quickly got a second Lindsay client until I got Lindsay to 15 hours a week. And she's like, that's as much as I'm going to work for you. And I was like, that's okay. And I grew exponentially. I was able to leave my corporate gig, of my Pilates corporate gig, be on my own. In 2016, I made over 6 figures teaching on my own. I did not have my coaching clients yet. I did not have on demand yet. This is just me teaching sessions, right? 6 figures. And I know people are going to say, well, you were in LA. You guys, rent in LA is expensive, including rent to teach. So let's not even, it's all relative. So what I will say is, something I teach people on my retreats and something that I coach people on, I'm going to tell you right now. You're going to take a piece of paper and you write down every single thing that you're responsible for in your life. Okay? In life, your personal life and your job life. Okay? Everything you are responsible for, you have to get it done. And then I want you to go through it and I want you to look at, does it bring you joy or not? I want you to rate it. So I had a coach have me do this. Her name's Kareem Walsh and she's phenomenal. I want you to rate it. So I went through and I rated everything. On a scale of 1 to 10, what kind of energy does this give me? Because here's what's important to know. Some people get energy from cleaning their house. It calms them, it soothes them, it brings them joy. There is nothing about cleaning my house. I love a clean house, but I don't want to clean the house. Me cleaning the house is just like, just sucks the life out of me, okay? So I would put a 1 there a 10 there. Sorry, 1 to 10. 10 gives the most joy, 1 not. So I'm going to put a 1. It's the worst. No joy given. 10, the best, right? So you're going to go through everything 1 to 10. So then what you'll look at is you will take a different way of highlighting and you will go, does this need my face or my voice? So right now I'm on a podcast with Katie. This requires my face and voice. Cannot do anything about that. Brad cannot be in my shoes here, right? But sending an email does not require my face and voice, right? Scheduling the emails, the newsletters that go out don't. It might need my voice to write them, but does not need me to do the legwork behind the scenes. The work on the website, it might need my input, but it doesn't need me to code it. So accounting, CPA work, doesn't need it. Housekeeping. So you go through and you look at that. You highlight all the things that do not need your face or your voice. And then what you do is you look at the 1s, 2s, and 3s. So these are the lowest in the totem pole of joy giving. And you look at the ones that do not require your face or your voice. And you actually ask yourself, how much does this really cost? And not what you think it costs, like how much does it really cost? Like do the work. Because what I discovered is if it takes my housekeeper 4 hours to clean and she charges me $150 and I charge $150 for a private, and in 1 hour, I can make the money that would take 4 hours for her to do a job that would take me so many hours because I hate it. It is actually costing me money when I clean my house. I'm costing the business money, right? My assistant, the work that she did, she cost me at the time $20 an hour. We now pay something like $25 or whatever. Any job she does is because if I did it today, I'm costing the company money. Can I go to we just had her pick up some stuff to ship out. Am I capable of shipping things? Yes, this is not hard. It's not even beneath me to ship things, but it costs me money if I go ship it. It is so much cheaper for me to have her do it because then I can spend things on what brings the money in. So on the 1s, 2s, and 3s, you're going to find out what those cost you. And if anything costs you under what you charge for a session, you need to delegate it out right now. And then you'll take this list and you'll re-review it once you've been able to delegate those things out, because it does take time to train people. But once you've done that, then you'll look at the 4s and the 5s. And you might even want to look at the whole list again, because what you might have thought was a 4, you just liked a little bit better than one of the 1s or 2s. And you can get yourself to what I'm in charge of in this business is always an 8, 9, and a 10. Like I rarely have to do anything that does not bring me joy in this business. Do I have to do things I don't like pay my bills and stuff like that? Yeah, my husband and I have to sit down and talk about money all the time. But like what I do in my business brings me so much joy. And guess what happens? It means I have more time. I have more enthusiasm. I have more creativity. We already talked about how Pilates instructors are so creative. I have all of that and I do not burn out, because I have figured out how to delegate. And did I hire all of these people? We have a staff of 25 now. No, I hired one. I had one person for a really long time. Then I had a second person for a really long time. And in 2020, it was a developer, a customer service person, my sister-in-law, and my assistant. That's it. Then, as they continue to do what they did and I continue to be creative in my business and I could actually grow it because I could spend more time on the things that I love, like marketing, and I could grow the business, I could reinvest in hiring more people. Now, you might not need 25 people. That might scare you. You might only need 2 people. I promise you, it is so scary to hire your first assistant. I promise you, you are going to worry about paying their payroll. Here is the deal. It happens all the time that a company has to let people go. And I know you're going to be embarrassed. And I know you're going to be sad about it. If you do things right, they are doing things that free you up to have income producing tasks on your plate. Or their job actually will end up paying for itself. Like the customer service person technically pays for her own payroll because she has retention, she's helping do things. But you have to understand that it's not a reflection of you as a bad person if it comes to the point where you're like, you know what, this isn't working out, I've got to let you go. It happens all the time and they chose to work for you too. So make sure that you're really doing your due diligence about getting the right person for the job you're trying to hire. You're going to make mistakes there. You will learn from them. We already talked about experimenting and making mistakes and doing a better job the next time. But you are costing your business money if you're trying to do everything yourself. It is not actually giving you more money on your plate. And so if you feel burnt out and you need help now, you probably did a long time ago. So do that homework and then hire someone to take some stuff out of your plate.
Yeah, I love it. And also, I would like to add, if you've got staff working for you, find out, I call it your superpower. I know what my superpowers are. I will only work in my superpower. I'm not going to sit and send emails all day long. I actually don't enjoy doing it. It's not what I'm good at. But we've got staff members who love sending emails. We've got staff members who love doing the newsletters. So figure out within your small business, if you do have other members, where is it that their superpowers lay? Because I feel like as a small business owner, sometimes we assume that everybody is capable of doing all the things just like we are capable of doing until we burn out, but people are not capable of doing that, and that's why they are not small business owners. But B, they are actually in love with doing some of the things that you detest doing. So figure that out within your team and everybody can be happy.
Well, and also like sometimes I meet a lot of studio owners like, oh my God, I need to pay them more, And it's like, well, yes, you do need to be charging rates that allow you to pay people a fair wage for the service they're offering. But you don't need it if you don't have more hours to give them. We can't just keep paying them more, right? So we have to figure out like if they want to make more money, what are some other ways that we can support that? Are they really good at social media? Do they love that? Okay, how can you come up with a way to pay them for the time to do that? And then also some KPIs to see how it's working. And maybe there's commissions that they get based on different initiatives. Like there are always different ways to come up with things, but I love that you call it a superpower. Everyone has a strength that they're really good at and that's not yours. And then they'll have more buy-in to the business because they're helping grow it. And then, you come up with different ways on how can you support them and benefit them in different ways for those jobs that they're doing. What does that look like? It's so much more fun. Again, your business isn't here to entertain you, but it doesn't have to kill you either. And you don't have to do all the things just because everyone says you should do, like just because I have on demand and a podcast and I do retreats doesn't mean that that's how business works. That's how my business works. It's because those are things I love to do. But your business can have these other products and other services that you enjoy doing. And then okay, my clients love a WhatsApp channel. I hate that, but maybe your clients do, and that's what you do things off of. It's so important for you to figure out like what brings you joy, going back to what your goals are, how do your clients like to communicate, and then taking your team members that you have that are existing and figuring out like what their great ideas are. You don't have to love all of them, but you can go, oh, that idea, that's good. That one we're going to do. And I would love for you to spearhead that. And it's so fun. People want to work for you for a long time if they feel like they're growing or they're being challenged. It's not always just about how much they're getting paid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hands down. Now I can't believe how quickly this time has gone, but before we start to wrap up, something that is so important for all of us is self-care. And, we are givers. That's why we become Pilates instructors. We want to look after people. We want to serve other people. And so often I see this happen, and it's something that we've got to manage in our own studio, something that I manage with myself. How do you manage your own self-care, and what are some things that you think that we could all be doing?
Oh my gosh, self-care is like literally my medicine. I wilt like a plant who can't be out in the sun if I don't have self-care in a day. It's something that my own team knows how important it is. So it's built into all the tours. If you see me on tour and you're like, oh my God, she's working so hard. Like she's so busy. Are you doing okay? Like you never have to ask me that. My team has built in self-care even into my tours because they know I cannot go without it. So first of all, I think we need for every single person needs to understand self-care is not selfish care. In fact, it is really terrible of you to not take care of yourself, because if you do not protect your practice, that is where you become resentful of your own clients and what you're doing and how often they're coming. That imposter syndrome, like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know, I'm not good enough. It's coming because you're not doing your practice. That's really what it is, because you're telling people they have to come 3 times a week, but you're not doing it 3 times a week. So I don't think that teachers have to take sessions from other people 3 times a week, but I do think that you need to get your own personal practice going. And I do think eyes on you from time to time is important. So what I do for self-care is going to shock a lot of you, because I do spend about 3 hours in the morning at least on my self-care routine. It didn't start off that way. When I was in LA, I had like 25 minutes, and then that grew and that grew and that grew. So what happens is the more energy you have, the faster you get things done. And also, you guys, the more you delegate that stuff that drains you, the more you have energy to do things for yourself. So I do a cold plunge every morning. I love it. It's like shocks me out of bed because even though I'm a morning person, I don't like the part where I get out of the bed in the morning. So I do my cold plunge. I walk my dog every day. I love to see the sunrise. I love to be out in nature. I love to see the entertainment at the park that I go to. It's just so fun to me. That's so self-care. Then I do my own Pilates practice in my house. So I am lucky I have Pilates equipment at my home. But you know what, guys? You have room on the floor to do your mat work. So do it. And so I do that. And then I often do some red light and some journaling. That is really important to me before I start my day. Other places where I think self-care can happen is like the type of music you play during the day can be self-care, right? Like how you fuel yourself is self-care. How much sleep you give yourself is self-care. I have this way of creating your ideal schedule. I'm pretty sure it's free. It's called ditchingbusy.com. And I think it'll tell you how to do a scheduling tool. You can skip that part and just learn how I do a schedule. And how I do a schedule in a nutshell is this, like I put in my priorities first, which is when do I go to bed and when do I wake up? When are my workout times? When are my times with my partner? Like that is first. Then it's when is the best time for me to teach? Right? When is the best time for me to teach? Not when my clients want me to teach. When is the best time for me to teach? And then it's when is the best time for me to work on future projects, like future marketing stuff, the thing that propels my life forward, the thing that propels my business forward. And you guess what? You don't have to schedule in any of the admin. It just gets done. You will open your emails. You will respond to your bills. Like you will just, and like I like to say, it's called glitter time. Because glitter gets everywhere. That's why glitter bombs are stuck, like annoying. It just gets everywhere, right? And so because it gets everywhere, it can be done at any time. So if it's something you can do on your phone in line to grab a coffee or while you're sitting on the toilet, I know you do it. I know. Everyone takes their phone into the bathroom. If you can do it in either of those places, it's because it's glitter, right? It's something that can be done. So you don't have to schedule it in. You will get it done. So what people don't schedule in is the things that propel their business forward. And then they sacrifice their self-care to do the things that propel their business forward because they use the time to propel their business forward on the glitter. So you got to get your priorities straight. And then you have to test out. Like I just interviewed an amazing person who talked about, it's called anhedonia, anhedonia. It's this interesting diagnosis where women who are burnt out have a hard time feeling joy. They can't feel it. It's the feeling of meh. And a lot of women are feeling this. And because I coach so many, because I teach so many women, what I'm finding out about this industry is a lot of people are in this meh stage. And it's because they stopped caring for themselves a long time ago. So they actually don't even know how to feel joy in the things that used to make them feel joy. And so what we all have to do, if this is you, if you don't even know what self-care is like, or you don't even think you have the time, is to try out things that could make you feel good. Don't sign up for an hour-long session if that feels overwhelming, you don't have the time. Take 15 minutes, There are free 15-minute YouTube set classes from people of all the famous teachers. Go do it. I'm on Pilates Anytime. There's a 20-minute class. Go do it. Like there's short, do it short, right? But start to test out little things. Ditch the perfection on what self-care is for you and test out what makes you feel good. And then start to expand on it. But if you have put your work schedule in first, and then your partner and your kids and all those other people in first, and then you're trying to fit your self-care in, good luck. You are like driving a car on E, hoping for a gas station to appear. That's you. And so you're stressed out and you're worried and you're nervous, and then people cut you off and you snap at them. That's you because you didn't fill your gas tank first. And so that's what I have to say. I could talk for another hour on self-care for Pilates instructors because I promised you what is keeping you from having the business you want that inspires you all the time is you not protecting your practice. And even if you think, oh, but I go to class every single day. Okay, well then what else are you doing for your sleep? What are you doing to learn? What are you doing to get to know yourself? And also and this might sound like blasphemy, but do you need to be listening to a teacher tell you what to do every single time you work out? Or are you incapable of moving yourself is my question. Because the reason why so many teachers today are like, what's a good cue for that? What's a good cue for that? And my response is like, what do you think a good cue is? Because they don't spend time with themselves. And here's the thing, my practice, my time with myself is where I go, that's an interesting feeling. I wonder why it's like that. I wonder if it feels like over here. I wonder like this. Oh, I've got it. And the reason why people think I have good cues is not because I'm a genius. I'm not. I just spend a lot of time with myself. in my own practice being curious. And then I look at bodies through, does that feel good to me? How does that feel like that? What is it like? Oh, that's like when I did like that. Okay, I am my own teacher. And so it doesn't mean I don't get eyes on me, guys. I do. But like, I think that's what a lot of teachers' problems are, is not being with themselves, being present and caring for themselves. So hopefully I answered your question, and I hope that gets some people inspired to try some things out for themselves. But by all, please, 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 feel yourself, sleep, take some time to do your Pilates practice.
Yes, yes, and yes. My schedule's similar to yours. Get up in the morning, journal, beach, infrared sauna, ice bath, my own self-practice, and then I start my day. And then at the end of the day, always put into reading. Reading, always, 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 and quiet time. Like not always on a podcast.
Yes, no, exactly. Like we love that you're listening to this podcast. We love that you listen to my podcast, but like also like read a book. It's so funny. My obsession is like, I love good fiction. I love a book I can get lost in. And so if you need books, I'm sure Katie has some suggestions. Rachel, I absolutely love it. I have a pimp mat and a sauna blanket. And so at the end of the day, sometimes I'm like, which one do I want to be on? I love to ground down at the end of the day. I'm an Aquarius, so I'm like kind of all up in the clouds all the time. So I'm like, let me ground down. Let me do something that's not Pilates related.
Mm-hmm. What are you reading at the moment?
Okay, so I just finished Jodi Picoult's By Any Other Name book. It's this whole idea that Shakespeare didn't write his stuff, and I am now a true believer that he did not. So I'm on the it took one book for me to go, yep, I'm in. He didn't write it. And it's fiction, but it's like Jodi Picoult even has like references of like how she created this like fictional story. So I highly recommend it. It's so good. It's also my first Jodi Picoult book. So like, I think I'm like on that. I really loved The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I forget that author's name, but if you want popcorn for your brain, I read that in 3 days. So when people are like, you're so busy, I'm like, let me tell you, I could put a 400-page book away because I'm a nighttime reader. But my husband and I are reading, we just read The Fourth Wing, and we're on the second book in the series. I think it's called The Iron Wing. And it's like a Hunger Games meets a little Harry Potter. So he loved Harry Potter. I love the Hunger Games. And it's got some romance in there. So it's quite the series, and I'm very into it.
I love it. Yeah, my son's read those books.
Oh, I'm sure people are like, oh, she's going to say she read like some books that like are on business. You guys, like, that's what podcasts are for. I really love to turn my brain off. And I really love to like listen to things or read things that have nothing to do with what I do, because I get the best ideas. Like, if you watch the Olympics as a Pilates instructor, I'm sure you got great ideas. Like sometimes you got to get out of your industry to like develop your industry,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, hear you to that. Absolutely. Now, if you could say something to your former self as the person you are now, with everything that you know, with everything that